support and so on. The polls show that people want the government to help those in need, depending on whether they use the word welfare or not, right? If you use the word welfare, well, you know, everybody hates welfare. But if you say, should the government, it's really interesting. I'm citing a specific poll. Do you think more money should be spent on welfare? Only, you know, 22% say yes. Do you think the government should help people who are in need? 67% say yes. Really? The polls show that the public is more willing to cut military spending drastically than either the Republican or Democratic parties. That the public wants surtaxes on millionaires, they want a more graduated income tax. This is all ignored by the party that claims to, you know, be winning over. They're not winning over the people, they're winning over the Republicans, they think. Of course, they're not doing that either. And so I think there's room for somebody to declare a bold agenda that would come not conform, the word is not conform, to a public opinion which would go along with a drastic reordering of priorities, with high taxes on the rich, drastic cuts in the military budget, use the money for health and housing and kids and women and so on. So not just go along with that public opinion, but go ahead of it, because the public opinion is volatile, and people can be persuaded, sometimes the wrong way, of course, but they can be persuaded, and so a bold leadership that presents a program that is obviously appealing and makes sense, I think, you know, is the next thing that needs to be done. It's you know, I know all the arguments, the so-called practical arguments against it, but those practical arguments, to me, mean a perpetuation ad infinitum of what we have. Although it won't be an ad infinitum, it'll get worse and worse. Anyway, I don't think we should have too many questions, because you know why. Because yes. Yes.
Do you have any thoughts about McNamara's book, in retrospect, about Vietnam?
Yes. Yeah. No, he's. I mean, what he's saying, I was wrong in saying we couldn't win. I mean, that's how I read his book. That is not his belated criticism of the war is not a criticism of the immorality of the war. It's a criticism of the estimates made of whether the United States could win or not. And he's saying, you know, I told them we couldn't win. But what if we could win? What if we could kill 1 million people in Vietnam, but win? See? No, I wasn't impressed with his confession, you know. Yes.
What do you think of the U.S. history standards that were proposed?
The new what? New U.S. history standards. Well, they're better. They're better than what we had before, and therefore, because they're better, they have drawn the fire of the right. You know, imagine, you know, giving as much room to, well, maybe even more room to Harriet Tubman than to Robert E. Lee. I mean, that's a crime. So the new history standards are definitely an improvement and a step in the right direction. I don't think they go far enough, and I think they're still too anxious to show, you know, that we're not sullying the American patriotic spirit. And that's my reading of. I don't want to be too critical of it. But I want to be a little critical of it. Because after all, it was a compromise I think, between people who wanted a bolder approach to American history and people who didn't want to go that far. And so, yes, it's a step in a good direction.
Two more questions?
Two more questions? Oh, okay.
I'm a researcher, and I found your work very helpful and inspiring. And my question is about the difference between the earlier version and this new version on the issue of homosexuality and gay liberation. And I noticed that that there was nothing on it in the older version, and you've included a few paragraphs on it in the new one. Just wondering what sort of change in your mind brought that about, and whether you think you've done the subject justice, or...
You mean now have I done it justice? It's like the national standards. It's a step in the right direction, you know. But when I wrote the People's History originally, I was I'm trying to find a kindly word to describe the fact that I really left out some important elements of the American people, including, you know, the gay movement, and also including the Hispanic Latino movement. And so I tried to, in these chapters, and especially in talking about this unreported resistance, to deal a little more with that. One more, did you say?
Last question.
Okay.
Yeah, besides the progressive taxation and alternative parties that you talked about, critical parts of a progressive agenda, what's something else that you think, I mean, what's one of the most critical things that you think needs to happen on the left if we're to move forward with progressive change?
Do you mean aside from advancing a program?
Yeah.
Well, aside from advancing a program, what needs to be done is to bring people together who have been apart and who have been working very well in many ways on different issues, and to not overcome completely differences and not have people stop working on whatever issue excites them most, but in order to have a national movement, and this has been the big problem in American history, the divisiveness and the difficulty of unifying people with many different agendas, but there is a possibility of a common agenda, and I think that's the main problem of communication among all these people, organization among these people. I understand that in June there was a gathering of people. Luna Books was involved, right? Yeah. I looked down the list. There was Luna Books. I looked down the list of names. There was Andy Shalal. It startled me. No, I really wasn't startled. But there were a lot of organizations and a lot of people gathered in June to at least begin the process going of bringing people together. All you know, black and Latino and women's organizations and gay groups and labor unions and so on to begin the process of forming a new political movement. So I think I'll stop now. Thank you.